Pick up a banana in an American supermarket and you are holding a replacement. For most of the first half of the 20th century, the banana Americans knew was not the Cavendish that fills produce aisles today. It was Gros Michel, Big Mike, a thick-skinned banana that became the workhorse of the international trade. By the turn of the 20th century, Gros Michel made up the bulk of banana exports to the United States. Then, Panama disease spread through plantation after plantation. By the late 1950s, the export industry began replacing Gros Michel with Cavendish bananas because Cavendish could survive the strain of the fungus destroying Big Mike. That sounds like a simple story. A disease killed an old banana. A better banana took its place. But there is a problem with that story. Gros Michel never disappeared. It is still grown today. What disappeared was its place at the center of the global export system, and the banana that replaced it is now facing another form of the same disease. So, this is not just the story of a lost banana. It is the story of how an industry replaced the fruit and kept much of the vulnerability that made the first disaster so destructive. To understand why Gros Michel was so difficult to abandon, forget flavor for a moment and think like a fruit company in 1900. A banana is soft, it bruises, it ripens quickly, and the people buying it may live thousands of miles from the plantation where it was cut. That makes shipping the real challenge. Gros Michel happened to be remarkably good at surviving that journey. It produced large, compact bunches. Its peel was thick. The fruit resisted bruising better than many alternatives. Those qualities mattered enormously when bananas were being cut in the tropics, moved by rail, loaded onto ships, unloaded at ports, and sent onward to American cities. Historian John Suluri has argued that this commercial success reflected the needs of traders as much as the preferences of consumers. In other words, Gros Michel did not become the banana simply because someone conducted a grand taste test and declared it the winner. It fit the system. During the 19th century, Gros Michel spread through the Caribbean and then across the Caribbean coast of Central America. By the 1890s, plantations were producing it on a growing scale. Railroads and refrigerated shipping helped turn a tropical fruit that spoiled quickly into an everyday product for consumers far to the north. The banana became cheap, familiar, and standardized. And standardization has a strange effect on memory. Once one variety dominates for long enough, people stop thinking of it as a variety at all. It becomes the thing itself. An apple still looks like a category. We expect different colors, shapes, and names. A supermarket banana usually does not. For millions of consumers, there is simply a banana. But the uniform yellow fruit in the store is the end of a long selection process. More than 1,000 varieties of bananas and plantains are grown around the world. The export market chose only a very narrow slice of that diversity. A century ago, that narrow slice was Gros Michel, and its commercial strengths encouraged the industry to plant more of the same thing. That was profitable, until the soil itself became the enemy. The disease that changed the banana trade is Fusarium wilt, better known historically as Panama disease. It attacks through the roots. The fungus moves into the plant's vascular system, the internal plumbing that carries water upward. As those tissues become blocked and damaged, leaves yellow, wilt, and collapse. Eventually, the plant dies. But the most important part of the story is what happens after the plant is gone. The fungus can remain in contaminated soil for decades. There is another biological detail you need to understand, because it explains why bananas can be both wonderfully dependable and dangerously uniform. The sweet dessert bananas sold in supermarkets are essentially seedless. Growers do not plant a handful of seeds and get a genetically shuffled new generation the way they might with many other crops. They reproduce desirable bananas vegetatively, traditionally from shoots growing from the underground corm, and today also through tissue culture. That means a successful plant can be copied again and again. For farmers and exporters, this is incredibly useful. If one plant produces the fruit shape, ripening behavior, and quality the market wants, its descendants can preserve those traits with great consistency. But consistency is not the same thing as resilience. A field filled with closely related copies gives a pathogen fewer genetic surprises to encounter. If the fungus is able to defeat the defenses of the cultivar, planting more of that same susceptible material does not create a new defense. It creates more hosts. That changes everything. If a storm destroys a banana field, you can replant. If prices collapse, you can wait. But if the soil itself carries a pathogen that kills your preferred variety, replacing yesterday's plants with genetically similar plants does not solve the problem. Reports of Fusarium wilt appeared in Panama and Costa Rica in the 1890s, yet the Gros Michel export trade did not collapse immediately. For decades, producers fought a running battle with the disease. Sometimes the strategy was brutally simple. When a plantation became too sick, open new land. Healthy Gros Michel plants went into clean soil. Production moved forward. The fungus followed. According to the historical record summarized by ProMusa, more than 40,000 hectares of new land were opened as plantations were abandoned and replaced. That is more than 150 square miles. The industry was not curing the disease, it was staying ahead of it, and that worked longer than you might expect. Resistant banana cultivars had been identified as early as 1910. Yet exporters continued relying on Gros Michel for decades. Why? Because changing the plant meant changing the system built around the plant. Gros Michel already fit plantations, rail schedules, ships, ripening rooms, and consumer expectations. Every year the industry could keep Big Mike alive was another year it did not have to rebuild that machinery. By the 1950s, however, the arithmetic was changing. Clean, accessible land in parts of Central America was becoming harder and more expensive to find. Ecuador was expanding as a major exporter. The old strategy of moving away from disease was losing its economic advantage. This is where the easy explanation starts to break down. Yes, a fungus pushed Gros Michel out. But disease alone does not explain why the industry remained committed to one susceptible banana for so long. Gros Michel was not just a crop, it was infrastructure. And once an entire supply chain is designed around one biological product, changing that product becomes expensive. The fungus exposed the weakness. The system determined how long the industry lived with it. The solution was already waiting. Cavendish bananas were resistant to the race 1 strains of Fusarium that were devastating Gros Michel. That made them enormously valuable, but Cavendish was not a drop-in replacement. Compared with Gros Michel, the fruit was more vulnerable to bruising during transport. The industry had to change how bananas were handled. Cardboard boxes became part of the new system. Temperature control improved. Artificial ripening and more careful post-harvest handling helped Cavendish arrive at distant markets in acceptable condition. That detail matters. We often tell agricultural history as though farmers simply discover the superior crop and switch. The Gros Michel story shows something more complicated. The industry had known about resistant bananas for years. What made the transition possible was not only resistance in the field, it was the ability to rebuild the supply chain around a different fruit. By the 1960s, Cavendish had taken Gros Michel's place across much of the export trade. American shoppers kept buying bananas. The shape was familiar. The color was familiar. The price remained accessible. Unless someone told you, there was little reason to know that the biological product behind the word banana had changed. And here is the central point of this story. The banana changed. The system stayed remarkably similar. Gros Michel had been grown across enormous areas as a genetically uniform export crop. Cavendish became another genetically narrow export crop. The replacement solved a specific disease problem because Cavendish resisted race 1. It did not solve the larger problem of depending so heavily on one type of banana. That does not mean the switch was foolish. It worked. For decades, it worked extraordinarily well. Cavendish was productive, consumers accepted it, and the international trade expanded. Today, Cavendish cultivars provide almost all bananas entering the international export market. But success created a new form of dependence. Imagine every lock in a neighborhood opening with nearly the same key. That is convenient when you are the homeowner. It is also convenient for anyone who discovers the key. Clonal crops are not literally identical in every biological detail, and commercial banana production is more complicated than one worldwide clone. But the principle is simple. When huge areas are planted with closely related, susceptible material, a pathogen that can exploit that material has an unusually large opportunity. Race 1 taught the banana industry that lesson. Then, for a while, Cavendish made it easy to forget. Here is the strangest part of the Gros Michel story. You can still grow Gros Michel. Small farmers grow it. Backyard gardeners grow it. It survives in mixed farming systems and collections. The lost banana is not lost in the way the passenger pigeon is lost. There was no final Gros Michel plant, no extinction date, no last fruit. What vanished was something more specific. Gros Michel as the foundation of the mass export trade. That distinction changes the story. When we say a crop disappeared, we often imagine biology failing. But crops can disappear from supermarkets while remaining alive elsewhere. A variety can become commercially invisible because it no longer fits the dominant production system, shipping system, disease environment, or retail standard. Gros Michel became one of those crops, and this also explains why the question, was Gros Michel better, can distract us. People often repeat the claim that Big Mike tasted dramatically better than Cavendish. Memories and preferences certainly exist, and the two cultivars are not identical. But taste tests do not support turning that preference into a universal fact. Flavor was never the entire reason Gros Michel dominated, and flavor was not the entire reason it disappeared. The deeper issue was compatibility. First, Gros Michel fit the export machine better than its competitors. Then, disease made Gros Michel incompatible with huge areas of plantation soil. Cavendish fit the new biological reality. The industry adapted. That is not a conspiracy. It is what industrial systems do. They optimize around what can be produced, transported, and sold reliably at scale. But optimization has a cost. A system that rewards uniformity can slowly push diversity to the margins. You gain predictable boxes, predictable ripening, and predictable supermarket shelves. You may also concentrate risk. That invisibility matters because consumers rarely get to vote on varieties they never see. If a supermarket offers one kind of banana year after year, familiarity begins to feel like preference. Children grow up recognizing that shape and flavor as normal. Retailers build standards around it. Shippers build schedules around it. Growers are rewarded for producing it. Eventually, the market can look as though it chose one banana democratically, when much of the choice happened upstream, in fields, packing houses, ships, and distribution centers long before the fruit reached the produce aisle. And now that risk has a name familiar to banana researchers around the world: Tropical Race 4. Tropical Race 4, or TR4, is another form of the Fusarium wilt pathogen. Unlike the Race 1 epidemic that devastated Gros Michel, TR4 can attack Cavendish. Its survival spores can remain in soil for decades. Contaminated soil can move on tools, shoes, vehicles, planting material, and water. Once a field is infested, management becomes difficult and costly. TR4 spread through parts of Asia, reached Africa in 2013, and was confirmed in Latin America in 2019. That last date matters because Latin America is the heart of the international banana export trade. In 2023, Venezuela declared a phytosanitary emergency after TR4 was detected in producing areas of Aragua, Carabobo, and Colledes. In Aragua, the Renesa community had been growing bananas and plantains on about 20 hectares since 2018. Then the disease arrived. Farmer lesbia Margarita Garcia remembered watching the plantation deteriorate. Officials confirmed that affected banana plants had to be cut down. She said she cried. Not because a historical curiosity had disappeared, because those plants were part of the community's livelihood. With support from Venezuelan agricultural authorities and the Food and Agriculture Organization, farmers began planting other crops: corn, cassava, beans, peppers, and pumpkin, while learning biosecurity and soil management practices. That scene brings the Gros Michel story into the present. A fungal disease enters. A familiar crop becomes unsafe to depend on. Farmers must adapt. But there is one important difference. Today we understand the pattern much better. FAO emphasizes preventing TR4 from entering clean areas, containing outbreaks quickly, improving biosecurity, using genetic resources more effectively, and increasing diversity. Researchers are working on resistant and tolerant bananas. Farmers can diversify crops. Plant breeders can search a much wider genetic library than the supermarket shelf suggests exists. And this is where the story becomes larger than Gros Michel or Cavendish. There are more than 1,000 banana and plantain varieties in the world. Yet the international export trade has concentrated overwhelmingly on Cavendish. That is efficient. It is also a reminder that the food system we see is not the full biological world available to us. The supermarket shows us what won the supply chain contest. It does not show us everything that survived. There is also a counterpoint worth taking seriously. Monoculture did not cause Fusarium wilt. The fungus is real, and Race 1 genuinely made large-scale Gros Michel production extraordinarily difficult. Replacing Gros Michel with Cavendish protected the export trade for decades. Millions of people benefited from a cheap, reliable fruit moving through a global system. So, the lesson is not that standardization is always bad. The lesson is that standardization can turn one successful biological solution into a single point of failure. Cavendish was an answer. It should never have been mistaken for the final answer. The next time you see a pile of yellow bananas under fluorescent supermarket lights, look at them differently. They are not the timeless banana. They are one chapter in a much longer story. Before them came Gros Michel, the banana that fit an earlier industrial system so well that companies spent decades trying to outrun a fungus rather than give it up. When that became impossible, the industry changed the fruit. And for a generation, the replacement looked like a permanent solution. But Gros Michel survived outside the center, and the disease problem returned in a new form. The banana changed. The system stayed remarkably similar. Perhaps the most important thing we lost was not Big Mike itself. It was the expectation that a food as diverse as the banana should look diverse in the first place. So did the banana industry solve the Gros Michel disaster, or did it simply postpone the same problem by replacing one dominant cultivar with another? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Forgotten Crop for more food history buried beneath our feet.